First, it should be a person that you trust. That's the first threshold. Hi, Jeff Marsacci, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today we're going to cover a very important concept. Who should be your trustee? Well, let's clarify. First, we're talking about revocable living trusts. Let's start with that, and we should probably make it a completely separate video if we're talking about irrevocable or other types of trusts. But for your revocable living trust, who should be your trustee? Well, first, it should be you. And if it's a couple doing a joint trust, it should be them. These are the active trustees at the very start. So it's the person who's managing the revocable trust. Now, revocable trusts are great for avoiding probate when you pass on, or laying out conditions for controlling your assets if you become incapacitated, or even if you turn being the trustee over to someone when you're old enough that you want to say, you know what, I don't even want to manage my own finances. I'll leave it to this trustee. But first, we're starting off talking about you being the trustee. So really, if we're going to be technical, and we don't need to be, who's going to be your successor trustee? Well, there's no one particular answer. It's got to fit your particular situation. But I do have some guidance that I provide to my clients when we're addressing this issue for their trusts. And this is exactly how I lay it out. Let's set up the scenario and answer the more simple question. Who do you trust to handle financial things for you if you can't? So I lay this out in a scenario. What if we put all of this stuff together, everything's in place, and then you drive out and bang, you're in a car accident and suddenly you're in the hospital for 3 months in a coma. All right, someone's got to grab the checkbook and the account information and pay your bills and move money around. Keep everything going so that when you do get home, you're not left with a house in foreclosure or utilities turned off or things being repossessed. You're not left with a financial nightmare when you come home. So they're taking care of things for you. On the other hand, if you don't make it out of the hospital, you pass on. All right, this is also the person who's in charge of making sure that everybody gets what they're supposed to get and when they're supposed to get it. It's a broad question, but it gets right to the point, because if you're in that car accident and you're in a coma, it would be your successor trustee who's stepping in to manage your assets for you so you don't have a mess. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. If you pass on, it's also that successor trustee who is managing your revocable trust and making sure, okay, the bills are taken care of and whatever. And now we're distributing stuff to the beneficiaries. That's the position of the trustee. So what are the big guidelines? First, it should be a person that you trust. That's the first threshold. You actually trust them as a person. Sounds simple enough, but it does make sense. Second, even if you trust them as a person, do you trust their judgment, particularly when it comes to things like finances? You know, you can have a best friend in the world, trust them implicitly, but you're not going to turn over money to let them manage for you because they're just not good at it. All right, you don't trust the things that they would try to invest in. Third thing to look for, they should have some financial ability and know-how. Now, I used to say, yeah, they should be able to balance a checkbook. Apparently that's not a thing anymore, but it's that kind of baseline. Yeah, they can work with numbers a little bit, they can work with finances a little bit, but you don't need someone who's a financial wizard who's going to be able to do all this great stuff with investing and whatnot. That's not necessary when you're choosing a trustee. They should be smart with money. And to make sure that your money, if it's being held long term, is doing stuff well, this trustee should be able to manage and work with other professionals who are going to do things. Like, they will go to a financial advisor to make sure that the money's maintained in the right way, it's invested the right way, it's handled the right way. They're going to go to an accountant to handle taxes. So I kind of put this as a cautionary. You don't want the type of person, even if you trust their judgment, you trust their financial ability, but they're the ones who are going to spend 40 or 50 hours trying to figure out a trust tax return rather than just taking it to an accountant who understands to just handle it the right way. So you want those stubborn people to be out of that list. And that's the criteria for picking someone to be your trustee. Now, when you're developing this list, I usually say don't just do one person. You do one person at a time, but you have one person. If they can't do it, there's a backup person. And then if they can't do it, you've got a third person as a just-in-case backup. Oh, God, that third one, a lot of my clients have a lot of difficulty coming up with that name. But I encourage them to keep thinking about it. Give us a name. We keep working on it as a working list when we're going through the estate planning process. But try to get to 3. And I tell them I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this now for more than 26 years. We've gone through 2 people, either dying, becoming incapacitated, ending up in jail in a couple of cases. But we've never gone through all 3. So having that just-in-case person, well, it makes me sleep a little easier at night knowing that question is taken care of if they're not coming back every single year for their checkup like they should. Now, let's get into what if you just don't have people in your life that you trust who fit the other qualifications. All right. There are professional options. So here's how I kind of rank those professionals. First, you want to look to a trust company. Trust companies are basically professional trustees. They will take the money, look at the diversification, make sure it's invested well, look after the best interests of the beneficiaries. That's what they do. They're trustees. I have companies that I can recommend, but if you've got a regular, consistent financial advisor and you trust the way they're doing things for you, if they have a recommendation for a trust company, you go with that first. You've already got that well-established relationship with a financial advisor, great. I can provide my recommendations if you don't have that or your advisor doesn't have that. What's second? Bank trust departments come in second. Now, there's a variety of reasons that it's second, and it is a much more distant second. It's because a lot of banks still do liquidate everything, put it into bank CDs in our bank. So it's not great interest comparatively. But they're saying, well, it's safe and it's allowed. But the thing is, it looks really good on the bank's balance sheet. Look at all of the assets we've got under management in our trust department. but it's all in bank CDs. The other thing is they also tend to be a little bit stingy in giving out the money to the beneficiaries if it's being held long term. So I know there are a lot of banks, oh, our bank doesn't do that. We've got a whole wealth department. Okay, that's fine. But track records, in my experience, just in general, banks aren't at the same level as trust companies. Third, dead last in this list, me. Attorneys, financial advisors aren't going to do it. Accountants, maybe they'll do it. But the fact is, if it's not something that we're doing every day, we're not going to do it any better than a trust company would do it. And I have to charge my attorneys hourly rate in order to do that. And it ends up not being nearly as efficient as a trust company. The other thing, and this is kind of a, well, you know what, let's just jump into it. Who shouldn't be your trustee? Your kids, if the only reason you're listing them is, well, they're my kids, they have to do it. No. When you're looking at your kids and you're looking at the criteria, look at it objectively. Are they a person you trust, whose judgment you trust? Do they have some good financial ability, know-how, and are they good with working and managing other professionals? If the answer in any of those is no, don't be obligated. Oh, I've got to pick my kid. No, you don't. You don't. Second thing, don't do co-trustees. Oh my gosh, don't do. Look, the only co-trustees should be if you're starting out a revocable trust and it's a couple. All right, that's fine, but successor trustees, don't do co-trustees. Oh, well, I've got 3 kids. I need to make them all. No, you don't. A lot of the reasons why, some of the big reasons that my clients will, well, can we do co-trustees? Because I don't want my kids, any of my kids, to think I trust them less than the other ones. It's not about that. It's about ability. And when they say trust, what they really mean is love. I don't want any of my kids to think I love one more than the other. It's not about who you love the most. It's about who's going to make a good trustee. So co-trustees also doesn't work because sometimes my clients think, oh, we're spreading the work around. No, you're not, because it doesn't matter what you put in the trust. Oh, only one trustee has to sign what? They'll go along with that if it's a couple in the trust. But a lot of financial institutions, they don't care that it says in the trust paperwork only one trustee has to sign instructions. They're going to say, no. We want everyone to sign off because we are covering our butts. We don't want someone else who's a trustee to come back and say, well, I never approved that. I didn't, we voted and they lost and they ran to you. And no, everybody has to sign everything. So if you've got 3 co-trustees, you're tripling the paperwork. You're not cutting down. So co-trustees just isn't a good idea. There are going to be other attorneys out there that disagree with me, but look, fine. You advise your clients. I just see it as being overly complicated and creating problems in a process that would have been much more smooth if you had one person at a time as the trustee. Attorneys and CPAs as trustees don't do it. And unfortunately, I see some attorneys and law firms, they're pushing their clients. Oh, you make us the successor trustee. We'll handle everything. We'll take care of it. I reviewed, and honestly, I don't think they're doing this anymore, but I reviewed some trusts from a prominent firm and in one of the areas geographic areas where I practice. They were listing themselves as the successor trustee. They had the option to assign an attorney, including one from their firm, to handle being a trust protector. And then they decided if there was a need for any litigation, they could have and hire their firm to do the litigation and get paid all the way along the line. I basically describe this as the attorney setting themselves up with using your trust as an ATM. So they could just go in and get money anytime they wanted. No. Now that's the nightmare. If you're really, really stuck and you actually personally trust a particular attorney and there isn't anyone else. In all my years of doing this, I've had 7 clients or sets of clients list me as a successor trustee, but in almost all the cases, I was very far down on the list. I was kind of that third just in case. And it was because they had enough assets that they wanted to do a revocable trust, but not enough that it was cost efficient for like a trust company or a bank to handle it. So it's like, all right, fine. I don't like to do this work, but I'll do it. But I am not at the top of the list. Another one is your financial advisor. Even if you've got an awesome relationship with your financial advisor, you absolutely trust them, they're wonderful, chances are, if you're listing them as a successor trustee, their firm may have conflict of interest policies that would prevent them from handling the investing. Now, there are some bigger financial firms where if you are a relative and you fill out disclosure forms and have everybody sign that they do it, and they actually, it can't be any more distant than first cousins. It's got to be like aunt and uncle with niece and nephew, or child or grandparent or something like that. It's got to be a very close relation in order for them to handle your investing and be listed as a successor trustee. But by and large, even though this hurts because you trust your financial advisor, it may not be a good idea for them to actually be listed as a trustee, even a successor trustee in your trust. So that's the criteria. Probably other attorneys who disagree strongly or mildly or have different opinions. And look, if you're reading this, go ahead and please comment on that. If there's anything else you have in terms of questions of, well, okay, what would make a good trustee, go ahead and please put them in the comments below. Please, if you get an opportunity, if you liked this video and you want to see more of it out there for free, help support the channel, not with money, but with clicks, shares, and subscribing. Now, as I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life. And whatever you do, make it a great day.